Welcome to another video blog by the Counseling Geek.
Hey guys, it's Jeff, the Counseling Geek here, and I have a video review and a video tutorial that I want to share with you, and I'm glad that you're watching. If you've followed any of my blog posts or my video tutorials, you'll know that I like to spend time helping school counselors and educators not have to spend their time doing things that can be made more efficient and more productive. One tool that I've found that's really helpful with that is a tool called AutoCrat. And if you are a Google school or if you like to use Google Drive, I'm going to show you how you can automate some of your steps and create self-filling forms and things like that. The uses are numerous. What I'll show you this time is how we can take a Google form, so something that a student or we fill out in our Google Docs portal through the Forms feature, and have the answers fill in a printable and PDFable letter or form or printout or report that we want to be able to put into a file or share, or just take a form and put it into kind of like, I use it a lot for like our SST notes, or if we have a meeting tool that we want to go through with a form, but I want to be able to like save a printout or a digital version of the notes in one kind of a page format. It's a great way to do that. It's a little bit more complex, so I will warn you that what we look at doing together, this is a more advanced tutorial. You may want to play around with the Google Forms, and that's another tutorial, and I have some past blog posts that talk about developing a strong Google form with a lot of like go to page, kind of like if-then settings. But what we'll do to actually get started with AutoCrat, it's actually an add-in, so I'll show you where to find that in just a few minutes. But what we'll do, the first thing we'll actually need is to develop a form. The add-in is actually not used in the Forms feature, but it's used in the spreadsheet that the form then is tied to. So we need to create that form first. So let's do that, and I've created a separate folder in my Google Drive account, and really all we need to do is go into the Create, and we'll create a pretty simple, basic Google form. So we'll just do a quick example one here. So you'll add a lot of your standard questions. So if you said first name, and Google's nice because it automatically adjusts things now. Last name. If you said grade level, and then you put in, say, like I work at high school, so I'll say 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, and so on. You can do any grade level. It's really the questions, any question you can use in Google Forms can be used in AutoCrat to fill a form. So you can create as many questions as you want. It will make your form longer, and it might make it more complex, but it really is, you can go as deep and as long as you want. We'll just add another one so I can give you some examples at the end of it, so I can show you what a form might look like. We'll say student strengths, and this will be, we want a paragraph type answer. We'll use a SST format kind of as a template. So these are really just like, this is a notes situation. We might say, when might we want to re-meet? So we could say like, and it'll enter the date and year. Okay, and you can go nuts. Any of these options, if you add a video or a picture, you won't be able to pull that, but any fillable form area that you want, you can actually complete, and it will let you put in to AutoCrat. So that's pretty much it. So this is the basic, most rudimentary form. The other thing is, like I said, we need this spreadsheet. So we need to create a spreadsheet for where these answers go. Google's nice, it just lets you hit create. It'll link all of your questions to headers in a spreadsheet, like you see here. Be very careful, just a side note, be very careful about editing responses within your form. When things get edited in here, it can make your form responses end up wonky or not quite right. So if you ever want to manipulate any form responses, I always encourage you, make a copy of the form spreadsheet, because then you can edit to your heart's content. You just will need to update it if there's any additional form responses or change it later, but it will preserve your form, where your form answers will go. So the add-ons area is up here. Okay, and so I've added a few. To get an add-on, you just need to click Get Add-on, and you'll search for AutoCrat. Okay, and that's what it spells like, AutoCrat, C-R-A-T. I have no idea what that actually means, but that's the name of it. And so you just click it'll look like this. You just hit plus free, and it's a very strong app. A lot of our district has reviewed it. They're on board with it, so I would encourage you to check it out. All you got to do is click it. There's some great website links and things like that, but I'll show you the nuts and bolts of the basic kind of process of creating your first fillable form. Once you've added it, it'll show up here. And then basically what you'll do is you hit launch. It's going to open up this new window in just a second. And this is kind of the baseline starting place of your form. And so one nice thing that you probably want to do also is you should have an idea. If you have a form in mind, you want to kind of create a template to get started, because what ends up happening is we'll need to fill that. So what I would suggest doing is actually exiting out of here and going back into your Google Drive. And after you've created your form, we'll create, it could be, usually it's a Google Doc. So it's like a printout that you can print on paper, or you can save a digital PDF of. And you'll just create any form. And again, you can go as nuts as you want. Oftentimes I use boxes for where the answers will go. So if you just said like, this is very basic, you can like make it pretty and like align it different ways and add pictures and things like that. Basically this will become static text, the stuff that we're typing right now. And so if we just say SST form, and then we want to say, we want to put in places for, say, a student name, we want to add a table. I like these boxes because it helps keep things nice and orderly. You don't have to, but it's just helpful. So if I want like, say, a name, the grade level, and a birth date, I would add probably 3 boxes for this first one. You just simply say, so you can type in name, you can type in grade, and say date of meeting. Nice thing is Google Forms will automatically save the date of any submission. So it could be the date of meeting, it could be the date of form completion, it could just be the date that you want to use, but it'll save not only any dates that you enter, like the question we said, when will we reevaluate? That is a tough word to say. But also when that form was actually submitted, and we'll show you that in a little bit. And then you can come down here and you say, if we go back to our form, we'll probably want to have a space for each of these answers. So we have the first name, last name, grade level. So we want a place for the student strengths and student growth areas. So we'll also put those in here. And we might say student strengths. And you can add other text up here. You could say, these are areas that a student, parent, or teacher reports having a affinity for, or whatever you want to say. Okay, and then you just I usually, again, use another table. This one will probably be just one because we have one answer. And then we'll come down here and we'll say student growth areas. And again, you can add as much as you want. You insert another box or not, up to you. And it doesn't need to be a huge box, it'll self-expand. And then you go back over here and you say, at what date will we reevaluate? And you can add another box for that. And that probably can go right here. And you might actually just want to enter that in the box itself. Okay, so that's our basic sample SST form. So once we have those basic 3 things done, so the form, the linked spreadsheet, and our document, then we can go back in here to our spreadsheet and actually use the AutoCrat feature. So if we go there and hit launch, again, we're going to see that pop up come in. It's going to ask us to create a new job. And what that does is we're going to set up this spreadsheet to basically fill in these forms however we want. So we click New Job. We're going to give it a name. You can name it really anything you want. It's just helpful to know. We'll hit Next. Okay, and this is where you're going to select your form template. And that's the thing that we just created, this document here. Okay, so you're going to go find that in your Google Drive. Okay, so from Drive, we'll go in here. And it's going to take a second. My drive has quite a few things, but normally if you have it sorted by the most recent things, it'll pop up right here towards the top if you used it recently. Otherwise, you can search for it. You can find the folders and such. So we'll select that form. Okay, it's going to link it up here, and then we're going to go and hit Next if it doesn't forward you automatically. From here, what it's going to do is we are going to actually want to pull this information. Okay, so if you pull out this little blue tab, these are all of basically the headers up here that you have to choose from. Okay, and so the more questions you have, the more columns that you have in your form response sheet, the more basically placeholders or merge fields is what they would most likely call them, you have to choose from. And so now what we need to do is we'll take these merge fields and we'll have to, basically if you click on them, it's going to copy it. And then what we need to do is go back to our form and fill in what we want. Copy, paste. Okay, so if we say first name, space, and then go back to AutoCrat, this is where it kind of takes just a little bit of getting through the process, but it really saves some time later on, so you're not filling in forms. Space and copy, paste. So if we go back over here, hit grade level, I'll likely fast forward through some of this for you. Okay, so that's there. So what we'll need to do now is typically we have to go back because it's got to reload this form. So hypothetically, if this works right, we might have to select a new form. Okay, so we'll say open this. We might have to remove it, so we select a new drive. But we have to you have to know what the form merge codes are, so it's you have to go back a little bit. Not the end of the world, but it should pull all the right stuff now. And there you see it. Okay, so now we have these different options. And so what it's doing, what this page is saying is it's going to map the source data to the template. So it's matching your spreadsheet to your form template. So now it's saying this column is now going to fill in that area. Okay, so you can say typically all this stuff standard probably needs to be the same. Okay, I would leave that the same. It's going to tell you the merge code, so that's going to give you, so you can see that's where this information is going to go, is going to be this. And if you, for example, want to change it, you can do that. But typically if you've kind of set up the merge codes in the right place, it should be all mapped correctly. Then we should just hit next. Then you're going to create a file name. Okay, and so this is helpful, and you can use these merge codes here too. You can say, if you want to set up and say, this is an SST meeting, you can enter, for example, the student's first name here, space, last name here, and you just type in any static text you want. So SST meeting, and sometimes I'll include like the date. That sometimes is nice. Okay, so then you can enter today. Okay, it's going to say Google Doc or format. I usually leave it Google Docs. Okay, but then you can export it and it'll give you some additional options to share it as a PDF later. But this just sets up how it's going to fill in this format, and it'll actually create a copy and fill in that template document that we said. So if we go next, you're going to choose which folder you want it in. Okay, so if you want it in there, that's usually probably where I would suggest it. It's usually going to default to the folder that you are working in. This dynamic folder reference, I don't suggest playing with this. It's a little bit more advanced. I honestly haven't even explored too much into that, as well as this merge condition. This is a little bit more going to be something like if you want to say, hey, if there's like a rating scale and you say like, hey, only merge it or only email or do something if this column is set to like, if you have a scale of like 1 through 10, if it's above 8 or something. You'd have to play with that or explore some of the documentation there. One nice thing too is you can also be notified or notify other people when a form is completed. So it defaults to no. So by default, if someone filled this out, it's going to fill in this template, but no one's going to get notified via email. You just have to know to check the document. I like doing this because it's nice. We have it set up in different areas. So like if my co-counselor has an SST meeting with a 9th grader, I can actually get notified and see what that SST meeting, because I know that I'm going to be seeing them eventually. And it's just nice to know kind of what maybe they're working on before they even get to me. So you can say share the document. So this might be something that, if you share it, they're going to have access to the original. Sometimes you can say as an editable, view only, comment only, okay, or simply just a PDF. All right. You'll say allow collaborators to reshare, and this is where you might say, I want you to be informed, but I don't want you giving this information out. And then really here, you can also use email. So sometimes if you have an email address being collected in your form, like it's collecting email addresses automatically, you can just add, there will be like an email address option up here, and you can add that. So it'll automatically say copy the person who submitted that form. But you can also add any static text. So if I can spell my own email address. Okay, and that'll send me a nice quick email. Okay, you can CCC, BCC. You can type in any subject area. It's like if you want to say new SST response. Okay, and then you type in here is a new notes page for, and you can also use these merge codes here. Okay, so for first name, last name. Okay, and you can include any of those documents that will just show up also in the body of the email. You hit next, and then you're going to say run on form trigger, and you want to put that as yes. If you run on time trigger, it's basically going to say like, do you want me to run this process every 12 hours or 24 hours or every hour? Usually that's not kind of the purpose we're going to use in our example. But if you run on form trigger, what that's going to do, it's going to hit yes. What that's going to do, it's going to run this process every time a form is submitted, which is kind of the goal. So anytime there's a new response, it's going to create a new document. Okay, and then you hit save. And that hypothetically is it. So let's test that out once this saves. And we'll pull up the form. We'll enter a new sample response so you can see this. If you need to go back and edit it, you can do that here. This will run it. So if for some reason it didn't run, or you want to do it now again, you can run it if you want to delete it, or if you just want to view it. Okay. But from here, you can really just close it. And what we're going to do is we're going to go back to this form. I'm going to open up a sample by using that preview, or you can share the link. And I'm going to enter Joe Schmo, okay, as a 10th grader, rocking hair and super smart. Okay, student growth area is sleeps too late and picks his nose, okay, or whatever. And then you can select the date. It defaults to the current date. So like if you want to say I want to review it in a month, you just select a month later and you hit submit. Okay, and then what happens is in just a minute, it will send me an email. So I'll get an email notification with the document like we set it up. But it also will come in here. So you see it filled out here. Sometimes the form linking actually takes just a little bit. So sometimes we have to go back in here and wait for just a minute. So you have to sometimes give it just a second to actually process. So it might not be like 30 seconds later. It could be up to 5 minutes at times, depending on the amounts of information it's trying to link over. But basically, so usually you can see it over here once it's done. When you come back in here, if we head back in here, we should see now that we have a form, our where we're going, our template, and then the actual form that has been now linked. So when we open this, we can print this, we can adjust it, and it's pulling all of this information that we just plugged in. Okay, so again, you can take this to the nth degree. You can go nuts with this process. I've seen some very complicated and complex forms. It's very helpful in saving time, especially if like you're collecting information. A lot of times what this is helpful for is some of the tedious tasks. So if you are, say, collecting AP registration or taking notes at different meetings or you want something that's going to be put into a template that you want to, or a form that you want to use frequently, or that has a lot of data to submit and kind of put in one space so it's readable, it's a nice way to do that. So I'd love to hear back from you guys if you guys are using this, if you have another way to do this, what you might be using AutoCrat for. I'm always looking for new information. So if you have it, feel free to comment on this video, hop over to the blog, comment on the comment section there, or hit me up on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, pretty much anywhere, or shoot me an email at thegeek@thecounselinggeek.com. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you get some great use from this, and I look forward to hearing how you are saving time at work. Thanks.